Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless Official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Victor is called out by Kane, while Diane and Kyle are caught off guard by Jack's outrageous scheme. Editors have picked all of the featured goods and services on their own. On orders placed through its retail connections, soaps.com might get paid a commission, and the retailer might get some auditable data for their records. Now that he has exposed Kane's nefarious scheme, Michael wishes to proceed to ear-gnawing at society. Lauren rejects that. She must know how he intends to save Genoa City on his own. Michael explains that Kane intends to leverage his unique set of skills after hiring him. Lauren screams, "Are you serious? Are you going to fix him?" Things continue to get worse and worse. He accepted the position without even contacting her, which infuriates her. She threatens him with a butter knife as he begins to explain that he intended to protect her. Lauren is informed that Michael will be breaking the law when he says he doesn't want her to be impacted legally. Lauren fears that Kane is putting him in a position where he will be held accountable if his plan fails. Lauren fumes and informs Michael that she doesn't want him involved. According to Michael, Kane is endangering the people they care about. Lauren won't allow him to endanger himself. Michael will not stand by and watch. Lauren thinks she's just relieved he's not working with Victor, realizing she won't talk him out of it. She inquires about the depth of his relationship with Ashby. The ultimatum, what is it? Billy begs Sally to trust him at the Overlook. He is now aware of his mistake. Astutely, Sally notes that he has not to mention relinquishing Chancellor. She has seen their entire world torn apart by this obsession. Billy is unable to understand the impact this has on their relationship. Sally is unable to match it. And she is unwilling to do so. "Please let me know when you're finished." Sally. Sally yells, "You gambled me and my future," and complains about being collateral damage. She's learned her lesson and will use her own initiative to achieve her goals. Billy acknowledges that he wanted it all and apologizes. If nothing changes, Sally is unsure of how to proceed. Billy says that Jack and he are fighting Kane together. Sally wants to know that he is getting over his desire for vengeance against Jill, even while he is dangling Abbott communications. He must decide what to do. Me or the Chancellor? What is the radical idea that Jack has? Jack and Diane continue to lecture Kyle at the Abbott residence following his outburst with Audra at the Jazz Lounge. Returning to Billy, Jack vents about his brother's disarray and continued obsession with Chancellor. Billy will destroy everything if Jill continues to have a role in this equation. Jack must prevent that from occurring. Jack surprises his wife and son by announcing that he will do the one thing he never imagined he would have to do: team up with the Moustache to defeat Kane Ashby, while Kyle proposes setting up a meeting with Jabot's chief technology officer. Kyle. Will Victor win? Victor enters the entrance of the Kane train, which is still unguarded, and Ashby is taken aback. Waiting for his response over attacking Jabot has worn the Newman out. Victor announces that they will continue tomorrow after Kane stalls. Kane inquires as to what Victor stands to gain from this arrangement following some back and forth on his threat to reveal his late father. Victor says he can continue to run his businesses and add Jabot to his collection of toys. Kane will require more. To make his kids proud, he wants Newman Media to share the news that Colin changed his life. Victor sarcastically remarks, "This makes me happy. I'll think about it." He reminds Ashby that he is not in a position to engage in negotiations. Is he in or out? The transaction is off the table as soon as he leaves. Victor says he can make a deal. The last scenes. Billy is upset that Sally gave him an ultimatum at the Overlook. Even though he is the one acting selfishly, Sally chastises him for it. It pains her to think that a business is more important to him than she is. "Chancellor or me," she repeats. Sally tells Billy, with tears in her eyes, that's all she needs to know when he hesitates. Billy launches into a fresh apology and protest pitch. Sally cautions him that his decisions have repercussions. Billy will stop at nothing to have her in his future. You are my choice, Sally. If you'll let me to. Sally gives in and declares her love for him. Billy responds, I promise, in a sentence that should make her flee. Everything we desire will be ours. Billy Sally. Lauren is upset at society because Michael has switched from one dangerous career to another. Michael is aware that he has power over how things turn out. Lauren will be on board, for the time being, once she is certain that there are no more mysteries. Michael just gives her hand a kiss. Michael Lauren. Diane and Kyle are horrified when Jack suggests that they work with Victor at the Abbott residence. It's not a practical choice. Diane questions whether it is truly worth raising a white flag in front of the Black Knight, who despises Kane, in order to threaten him. Diane and Kyle make numerous attempts to dissuade Jack, but he refuses to change his mind. Believe me. I am aware of what I am doing. Jack. As the Moustache blames his old friend of abandoning him by hooking up with Ashby, Michael and Victor put on a performance at the Kane train. Kane refuses to give Victor an answer when he asks. Victor leaves. Victor is called out by Kane, while Diane and Kyle are caught off guard by Jack's outrageous scheme, and the tangled web that connects Michael, Lauren, Billy, Sally, and the rest of Genoa City only grows more perilous, more desperate, and more heartbreaking with each passing hour, creating an atmosphere so volatile that every whispered word, every unveiled secret, and every desperate plea feels like the spark that could set off a citywide explosion of loyalties, betrayals, and shattered dreams. And at the very heart of it all lies a question that no one dares to say aloud but everyone silently dreads: how far will each of them go to protect the ones they love, and at what cost? Michael, still reeling from Kane's manipulative ploy to draw him into a scheme that reeks of illegality and danger, finds himself cornered by Lauren's fury in society. Her voice echoing like a knife against glass as she wields her butter knife not as a real weapon but as a symbol of her refusal to sit silently while her husband signs away not only his own integrity but also the stability of their marriage, and when Michael, his eyes burning with both guilt and determination, insists that he cannot simply stand by while Kane jeopardizes everything and everyone they hold dear, Lauren's heart fractures between fear and rage, knowing that even if Michael claims he is trying to shield her from legal entanglements, his stubborn need to play hero could end up destroying them both, and her shrieked accusation, "Are you serious? Are you going to fix him?" rings louder than the clattering of dishes around them, a reminder that every choice Michael makes drags her further into the fire, whether he admits it or not. Meanwhile, as Lauren fumes and Michael stands firm, Sally Spectra and Billy Abbott face their own breaking point at the Overlook, a cliffside that mirrors the perilous ledge of their relationship, as Billy, consumed with desperation, begs Sally to trust him, to see past his mistakes, to forget the endless cycle of obsession that has led him to risk their bond for the sake of Chancellor, but Sally, her eyes flashing with the raw anguish of a woman who has been betrayed too many times, will not let him skirt accountability this time, and her searing indictment, "You gambled me and my future. I won't be collateral damage," tears into him with the force of truth he cannot deny, and though Billy confesses his greed, his misguided desire to have it all, and even admits to teaming up with Jack against Kane, Sally is unmoved, unable to see a future in which she is once again left bleeding from wounds inflicted by Billy's reckless choices, so she delivers an ultimatum that leaves his soul trembling: me or Chancellor? Choose. The pain of this confrontation ripples outward, striking Jack Abbott at the Abbott residence, where he finds himself not only battling his brother's spiraling recklessness but also facing the stunned disbelief of Diane and Kyle, who stare at him in horror when he unveils his radical plan to join forces with Victor Newman, the Black Knight himself, in a bid to bring Kane Ashby to his knees. Kyle protests that this is madness. Diane begs Jack to reconsider, pointing out that aligning with Victor means lowering the Abbott name to grovel before a man who relishes their humiliation, but Jack, his jaw set and his voice laced with unyielding resolve, insists that desperate times demand desperate measures, and his unwavering belief that only Victor has the leverage to outmaneuver Kane sets him on a collision course not only with his own family but with the very fabric of Abbott pride. Kane, for his part, finds himself cornered when Victor Newman himself strides boldly into his domain, the so-called Kane train, a smirk of calculated menace plastered across his face as he announces that he is tired of waiting for Kane to make up his mind about attacking Jabot, and though Kane tries to stall, tries to pry from Victor what he stands to gain, Victor wastes no time reminding him of the reality of power. He wants Jabot, he wants control, and he wants Kane to understand that negotiations are not an option. Either he falls in line, or the deal evaporates as swiftly as Victor's patience. Kane, though, is not entirely without ambition. He pushes back, demanding more than a mere place at Victor's table, daring to insist that Newman Media should spread the story of his redemption, of Colin's supposed transformation of his life, as though rewriting his past through Victor's empire could absolve him of the sins that haunt him. But Victor, with a wry, cutting laugh, dismisses the notion even as he dangles a hint of consideration, making it clear that Kane is not an equal, not a partner, but a pawn who must decide whether to play or be discarded. Back at the Overlook, Billy reels from Sally's ultimatum, torn apart by the knowledge that the woman he loves may walk away forever if he cannot sever himself from Chancellor, and though he insists, with tears clouding his vision, that she means more to him than any company, his hesitation betrays him, cutting Sally to the core, and when she finally whispers, through broken sobs, "That's all I needed to know," the silence that follows feels like the death knell of their relationship, even as Billy rushes to pull her back with promises and apologies, swearing that she is his choice if she'll only let him prove it, and in a moment of weakness, Sally yields, declaring her love for him once more, though the shadow of doubt lingers heavily over them both, foreshadowing the inevitable collapse that neither wants to face but both already fear. In society, Lauren softens slightly when Michael, despite all her protests, kisses her hand and vows to keep her safe, though she remains wary, knowing his promises are only as strong as the next scheme that pulls him under, and though she reluctantly agrees to stand by him for now, the tension between them simmers like an active fault line, threatening to rupture at the first tremor of danger. At the Abbott residence, the tension is no less thick as Diane and Kyle rail against Jack's alliance with Victor, their pleas falling on deaf ears as Jack insists he knows what he is doing, and though his voice trembles slightly when he declares, "Believe me, I am aware of what I am doing," the doubt in his family's eyes tells another story, that perhaps Jack, too, has allowed his obsession with stopping Kane to blind him to the consequences of consorting with an enemy. Finally, as Victor and Michael share a tense performance at Kane's headquarters, each man dancing around the truth while Kane watches with narrowed eyes, it becomes clear that Genoa City is hurtling toward a reckoning, one in which alliances will shatter, families will be torn apart, and no one will emerge unscathed, because whether it's Michael risking everything for a dangerous plan, Billy risking his heart for a love already battered, Sally daring to demand her worth, Lauren fighting to hold her marriage together, Diane and Kyle struggling to stop Jack from betraying his legacy, Kane playing a dangerous game of ambition, or Victor pulling every string in sight, the truth remains inescapable. In Genoa City, the cost of survival is always paid in heartbreak, and the bill is coming due. The air in Genoa City becomes even heavier as the cracks between family, lovers, and enemies widen into dangerous chasms. For Jack's alliance with Victor, a move so outrageous that Diane and Kyle still cannot wrap their minds around it, sends ripples of shock throughout the Abbott household and beyond, creating the sense that a storm has not just been forecasted but is already gathering strength over the city, darkening the skies and rattling the foundations of relationships built on decades of tenuous trust. Diane, pacing the living room with fury sparking in her eyes, tells Jack that aligning himself with Victor is nothing short of surrender, an outright betrayal of everything John Abbott built, but Jack, driven by his conviction that Kane must be stopped before he poisons every corner of their lives, insists that this is not surrender but strategy, a necessary evil in a war that Kane has already escalated beyond reason, and when Kyle, equally livid, throws his hands in the air and demands to know if his father has completely lost his mind, Jack bites back that Kane has already infiltrated their world through manipulation, deceit, and strategic targeting of their allies, so they must outmaneuver him with a force powerful enough to break through his defenses, and in Jack's mind, only Victor Newman wields that kind of force. But Kane, never one to play the role of passive target, has already anticipated that Victor's sudden interest in him comes with Jack's fingerprints all over it, and so, while Victor smugly believes he is closing the trap, Kane quietly lays the groundwork for a counter-offensive that no one in Genoa City is prepared for, a move so bold it will leave both Abbott and Newman alike scrambling to regain footing. Meanwhile, Michael struggles with his dual allegiances, for though he tells Lauren that his priority is her safety and the protection of those they love, his conscience gnaws at him, whispering that Jack's new alliance with Victor and Kane's escalating schemes could drag them all into a spiral of legal and moral ruin, and as Lauren clutches his hand, begging him to promise that he won't cross the line into illegality, Michael silently vows to do whatever it takes, even if that means sacrificing himself, to ensure that Kane's chaos does not consume the city. Across town, Billy sinks into a familiar pattern of desperation, convinced that Sally's ultimatum is not just a test but a lifeline, one last chance to prove that he is capable of choosing love over obsession, yet in his heart, he cannot untangle his burning resentment toward Jill, his lingering desire to prove himself through Chancellor, and his brother's apparent willingness to use Victor to achieve their goals, and though Sally, for now, believes his trembling promises of loyalty, she senses that his demons are not gone, only buried beneath a thin veneer of temporary resolve, leaving her to wonder if she has merely delayed the inevitable heartbreak rather than avoided it. The city itself seems to pulse with unease as rumors spread that Victor has been spotted entering Kane's territory, and whispers begin to circulate that Jack Abbott is behind the strange alignment of forces, whispers that threaten to expose Jack before his plan is ready, while Kane basks in the murmurs of fear, recognizing that the more his enemies panic, the stronger his position becomes. At the Abbott residence, Kyle and Diane finally corner Jack privately, demanding to know if he truly believes Victor will not stab them in the back the first chance he gets, and Jack, his voice cracking under the weight of their doubts, admits that he does not trust Victor, that he knows betrayal is always a possibility, but argues that sometimes the only way to fight fire is with fire, even if it means risking being burned alive, and Diane, horrified, snaps that he has already consigned them all to the flames. Kane, meanwhile, begins his counterplay by reaching out not to enemies but to unexpected allies, figures who have been wronged by both Abbott and Newman enterprises, those who crave vengeance or validation, weaving together a quiet coalition of discontent that threatens to erupt into open warfare if he chooses to ignite it, and among them are names that Jack and Victor have overlooked, ghosts of past battles who now see in Kane an opportunity to reclaim relevance and power. Back at society, Lauren, still shaken by Michael's involvement, vents to Phyllis about her fears, telling her friend that she doesn't know how many more battles she and Michael can survive without losing themselves in the process, and Phyllis, never one to mince words, warns her that men like Michael thrive on conflict and challenge, that part of him may need the adrenaline of danger the same way Billy craves the chaos of risk, and though Lauren rejects the comparison, the words burrow into her mind, planting seeds of doubt about whether her husband is truly protecting her or simply protecting his own need to be indispensable. Billy, tormented by his inability to detach from Chancellor, vents his frustrations at Lily in a tense encounter, telling her that the company feels like a piece of his soul even as it poisons everything else in his life, and Lily, sharp as ever, tells him that his inability to let go is not strength but weakness, that he will never truly have Sally until he proves he can walk away from the very thing that keeps dragging him back into self-destruction. The threads tighten further when Victor and Michael put on their staged performance at Kane's headquarters, a performance that Kane sees straight through but allows to play out, amused by the theater of it all, for he knows the true test will not come in words but in actions, and when Victor presses him once more to declare his allegiance, Kane simply smiles and says nothing, forcing Victor to retreat with the bitter taste of rejection in his mouth. Back at the Abbott estate, Diane clutches Kyle's arm as Jack leaves the room, whispering that they must find a way to protect themselves in case Jack's gamble with Victor turns into disaster, and Kyle, conflicted between loyalty to his father and his own sense of self-preservation, wonders aloud if perhaps the only way to protect the Abbott family is to secretly prepare a contingency plan against Victor himself. An idea that shocks Diane but begins to take root in her mind as the only plausible safeguard. As the night deepens, the city feels suspended on the edge of collapse, with every character moving like pieces on a chessboard, their motives colliding in ways that blur the lines between love and obsession, loyalty and betrayal, strategy and self-destruction, And though none of them can yet see the full scope of Kane's countermove, the tension in the air makes it clear that the next blow is coming, and when it lands, it will not only expose Jack's alliance with Victor but will test the limits of every bond in Genoa City, leaving only one certainty: the game has changed, and no one, not even Victor Newman himself, is immune from the fallout. The reveal of Kane's secret coalition begins like a whisper in the dark, almost too faint to take seriously, but within hours the ripple spreads across Genoa City like a storm surge, forcing everyone to recognize that Kane has not simply been stalling Victor or evading Jack. He has been building something formidable, something neither Abbott nor Newman anticipated, and when word reaches Jack that Kane has quietly aligned himself with smaller but bitterly motivated players, former Newman employees, cast aside by Victor, disgruntled Jabot affiliates still loyal to Ashley's vision,